Actually, here's a fun fact that I did not know until I started digging into the research for this episode. The Wicked Witch, up until Wicked, did not have a name.
Oh boy.
And the way that they got the name Elphaba was they were inspired by L. Frank Baum's Elphaba, his initials.
What? Wow.
Well, I know, my head went,
Elphaba.
what? Elphaba,
Wow.
L. Frank Baum.
3, 2, 1, punch it.
Could you jump to light speed in that tin can? Go back in time in a DeLorean. Will it crash or take to the sky? Tell me, smart guy, does it fly?
Welcome to Does It Fly, the podcast that puts your favorite sci-fi properties, inventions, and conceits to the test. I'm your mad scientist, Hakeem Oluseyi.
And I'm your pop culture expert, Tamara Krinsky. Time to dive into today's topic and see, does it fly? Hello.
Hello there. You're from Jersey, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Why
So
do you
this
ask?
is the Jersey show, because I think today's show is a phrase that, isn't it a Jersey phrase, the name of this show?
Nah, you just
It's not?
really angered all the people living in Boston.
You're so right. It's a Boston phrase.
So if you live in Boston and you see the color that I'm wearing, my green jacket over here,
Yeah.
then you might have an inkling of what we're going to talk about today on Does It Fly?
That's right. The Celtics.
No.
No, not the Boston Green. Oh, that's not a sci-fi that's not a I can't say it is all of those, because, everything a movie is, everything a television show is. Sports are the same thing, right? They broadcast it for us. We're talking Wicked.
Woohoo!
No, the show Wicked. I'm not saying we're talking Wicked, Bostonians. The show Wicked. We're talking about the stage play. And by the way, speaking of Boston, I live in the theater district in Boston.
I didn't know there was a theater district in Boston.
Yeah, it's right next to Chinatown, right? So right where the Wilbur Theater is. It's right there. All that's right there. So I would, eat pho and then go watch a play.
I have not been in Boston in years and years and years. So it's really a city that I do not know at all. Yeah.
MIT. And by the way, for those of you who heard me say Chinatown and then reference pho, I know that pho is Vietnamese, okay? But my favorite restaurant, I ate pho, okay? So, all right, so we're talking about Wicked. So you went to the play and you saw Wicked, is that right?
And I'm going to be like a snooty theater person right now and say, it's not a play, it's a musical. Because if you were doing theater, you would always call it a musical.
What's the difference?
And yes,
What's the difference?
This is a musical as music.
And a play does not?
There are plays with music, but yes, a play, if we're talking theater vernacular, a play is generally, or a quote unquote straight play, is a show that is primarily dialogue. There are plays with music where music either factors in or maybe there are some things that are sung, but a musical is something that very specifically uses music, uses song, uses dance to help tell the story. It is an intrinsic part of it. And
all right, I'm going to interject into your intro, because when I lived in Jackson, Mississippi in the late 80s, in the old days, they had this thing called the Chitlin Circuit, where black artists through the South would play in not the main venues, but these venues that were segregated, right? It was something like that for plays. And so I would go watch these black plays, right? The cast was black, sort of like Tyler Perry ended up doing many years later. But quite often it was mostly dialogue, but they would break out into a song, and quite often a gospel song.
But yeah, so we're talking specifically about Wicked the musical, which came out in 2003, and it is one of the most beloved stage musicals of current times. I'm not going to say of all times, because there's musicals that came before.
I have a Wicked poster that I own. Somehow, when I lived in Boston in the theater district, I came in possession of a few Wicked posters. Yeah. And so I have a couple of poster tubes that's collecting posters from over the course of my life.
Nice. So wait, you have the poster tube. So is it up on the wall?
No, it's not on the wall. I never, I moved so much since 2015 that I keep them safe because, I value them. Because one of them is the day I spent with Chadwick Boseman right before Infinity War came out. He signed their limited edition poster for me. And so that's one that's in there. And I have others, mostly nerd posters, but I value them, right? And so I don't want them to become a victim of sunlight or something, right? I imagine if I'm going to put them up, I'm going to put it in a protective frame and, all that kind of jazz. But yeah,
you got to take care of those things.
you got to take care of those things. So specifically in Wicked, we're talking about the green skin. But when everybody hears the word Wicked, when I was a kid, it was all about the Wizard of Oz and the Wicked Witch of the West, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
right.
Yeah.
So for, I think most folks know this, but just in case. So Wicked, the musical, which was created by Stephen Schwartz and Winnie Holzman, is actually based on a book that was written in 1995, a novel called Wicked, The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West by Gregory Maguire. And it's actually a series of books. This one tells the story from the point of view of the Wicked Witch. And then, of course, we go all the way back to Frank Baum's original Oz series, and that is what the original Wizard of Oz movie was based on, which is one of my favorite movies of all frickin' time. When they wanted to make this as a musical, it's so crazy. So Stephen Schwartz, who is an amazing musical theater composer, he did Pippin, he did Godspell, he did Disney, he did the music for Disney movies like Pocahontas and The Hunchback of Notre Dame. So when he found out about this book really randomly on a vacation, he was on a boat with somebody. I think it was a fishing boat. Somebody happened to mention, oh yeah, there's this book out there that tells the story from the Wicked Witch's point of view. And he was like, wait a minute, that sounds interesting.
It does.
So he tracked it down and he found out, it had been out, I think, for like a year. He found out, because of course, Hollywood's always on top of these things, that the film rights had already been optioned by Universal.
Oh.
Yeah. And there was actually a script that was already floating around.
Wow.
So yeah. So, he was like, and they were going to make it into a film, but he was like, I think this really needs to be a musical. This has got to be a musical. So he little by little started tracking down folks at Universal to try to convince them that it needed to be a musical. And eventually he got to Mark Platt, who was running Universal at the time, who turned out to be a musical fan. He had been in a college production of Pippin. So he was already a Stephen Schwartz fan.
Yeah.
Now, it still took a while to get an answer because they were going down this road of turning it into a movie. But eventually they did come back and give him the green light and say, yeah, let's try this. And Mark Platt was also involved with the making of the musical.
So here's a question. I don't recall. Now, I watched The Wizard of Oz. I remember watching it several times as a child. I don't recall whether or not it was a musical, but I do recall The Wiz coming out with Michael Jackson, Diana Ross, and those cats, and it was a musical.
That's a good question if it's technically considered a musical. There is a stage version of The Wizard of Oz, which is a musical. The Wiz, for sure, is a musical.
Yes. And what I was getting at was Wicked inspired by The Wiz?
Was Wicked inspired by The Wiz?
To be a musical, because The Wiz was a successful musical based off The Wizard of Oz, but it was a straight Wizard of Oz, whereas this is a completely new perspective of the same story.
That and again, like, I'm not the definitive answer here, but everything that I've read in the interviews with Stephen Schwartz, who again was like the instigator, I've never heard him mention The Wiz as being the reason that he thought this needed to be a musical. He talks specifically about his reaction to the book, to Gregory Maguire's book, and that's how he.
Wait, what year was that? Because that might be before. Well, no, The Wiz was pretty.
No. The Wiz goes back. Yeah, no. Right, it went like Wizard of Oz the movie. And Frank Baum books, Wizard of Oz the movie, The Wiz, the books that Gregory Maguire did, and then Wicked. And there's also other riffs out there on Wizard of Oz. I mean,
really, just not as popular.
That go all the way back to, some of them, because Frank Baum had a whole series of books. So there's lots of different stuff, and so, but one thing that is pretty consistent are the characters, like our Wicked Witch, our lovely Elphaba of the green skin. And, that's what we're going to be talking about today, right? Like the science of how she got her green skin and the story of how that works in our story world.
So let's get into the science. So this is biological science. When you talk about skin color, as a human, you think about, ooh, skin color. But I immediately think about octopuses.
Okay.
And because what you have here is a humans who are expected to have a particular range of natural skin colors. But now you have a color that's just not natural at all, right? You have this green skin. So that sounds like something more of an octopus would do than a human.
I'm going to interrupt for 1 sec. So before we get into that, we should probably, again, for folks who may not have seen Wicked recently, we should probably actually explain how she gets the green skin, just because that's context for the conversation.
I got it. I can say it in one sentence.
Do it.
She got it from her mama.
Long story short, her mom was married to the governor of Munchkinland. Mom had an affair with a traveling salesman. Traveling salesman gave her this lovely green elixir while they were doing their thing. And then out pops Elphaba, Wicked Witch, who becomes the Wicked Witch, 9 months later, looking very, very bright green. And the green skin is something that she has through her whole life.
You're green. I am.
So what is that green elixir that's that was made illegal? Remember, you have to it's a beverage. I bought some of it when I was touring the Mediterranean some years ago. Absinthe. Yeah. So their beverage is a green beverage like absinthe.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the idea scientifically. Scientifically, what's going on? And the question is, can a mother drink something and have her child be born a different color? Before I get into answering that question, I'm going to inform you, my dear friend, that I once turned green.
How did that happen?
Oh, it was a very painful process. I didn't turn green completely. My hand, specifically a finger, turned green. But here's what the deal was. It was the summer of 1987.
Uh-huh.
I had a job working at Wendy's, making $3.35 an hour. And when you went in first thing in the morning as a grillsman, one of the things you had to do is prepare the meat. It would come in these big packages and you had to break it down into these piles. And there was a lot of blood in there. So, and then you had to use something, I forget, plastic wrap or something. And so you have that serrated metal thing. And I just cut my finger.
Yeah.
Just a little nick, just took the brown off. Nothing deep. Didn't even really bleed. Just those little bubbles of, Yeah. As manly as I am, probably didn't even feel it. So
totally. Yeah.
So anyway, I go back to packing meat,
mm-hmm.
and my hand goes into this blood over and over. All right.
Oh, did you get an infection?
I got an infection.
That sounds right. An infection.
Yeah, and I did not go to the doctor because you don't go to the doctor. And so by day 3 or 4, my finger swelled, then my hand just completely swells up, and then the meat bursts out of that hole, and I got all my lymph nodes are big, and my buddies take me to the emergency room, and they end up telling me I might have to get surgery, but they wrap my hand up, they give me all kind of antibiotics, they send me home, my sister comes and gets me, I go to my sister's house a couple hours away, and then I have to come back to the doctor to have him look at it, and when you have a bandage over time, it gets crappier. And I wake up the day before I'm going to go back in, and the bandage has come off my hand, and my entire finger is green.
What was your reaction when you saw it?
Oh, I thought I have gangrene, and they're about to cut off my hand.
Yeah.
Right? That's what I thought. And I go in, and the guy looks at it. He's like, oh, it's not too bad. And he grabs these scalpel-sharp scissors and just goes at it. And, of course, I try to jump, but there was no feeling. And he just cuts off all the, I just had a cratered finger for a long, long time. Right. So anyway, that's how I turned green.
Okay.
What is really surprising is that it's really easy. There are many ways that a person's skin color can change, right? And one of them is by stuff that you ingest. The one I just described is gangrene. even if people have bruises, right? If you see people with lighter skin, as their bruise ages, it goes through these
Oh
different
yeah, that'd be
colors.
me. My skin's been purple. My skin has been green. It's
Yeah, it turns green, right? Yeah. But listen, I have another one is copper, right? Copper oxide is green. And so if you have copper jewelry on, if you have creams or medications that contain copper, sometimes, there's small amounts of metal in water. And so if pool water may have copper and someone with blonde hair goes in there swimming, it could turn green, right?
Well, I mean that's for folks who may not be natural blondes, like one of the things that they tell you if you get your hair dyed is like be careful of going into pools right away, because you can come out of there with green hair if the wrong chemicals have a little interaction there. Doesn't change your skin, but changes your hair. Yeah,
changes your hair. Yeah. And I'm aware of that as well. My natural hair color is much redder, but when it turned white and I started to color it dark, I first tried to color it my natural color, and it wouldn't end up that color because I didn't know what I was doing. And so it ended up some odd yellow, orange, gold. So I'm like, I'm just going black. Yeah.
That happened to me at sleepaway camp when I wanted, because I am a natural redhead, but I was like, I'm going to be blonde and put lovely, lovely highlights in my hair with a lovely product called Sun In, which is basically like a spray-on bleach that you just they like mist your hair every day and the sun will give you natural highlights. And my hair turned bright orange.
Wow.
Not
good. Yeah. That's not. Yeah. You can't mess with that. You got to know what you're doing, right?
No. Yeah.
Yeah, so there was this outbreak of green skin in America that is not well known in the late 19th, early 20th century, from like 1870 to 1920 or so, right? None of us were around then, unless you're a vampire or something. So what happened is it was called chlorosis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it caused people to have green skin. And it was mostly, What's that?
What caused it?
Well, it's a type of anemia. It's called hypochromic anemia. Oxidation in blood had to do with hemoglobin somehow. I don't know the exact details of it, of the mechanism, but you ended up with green skin, and it affected females more than males. So it was reported, it was thought at the time that the green skin of a female was a sign of sexual maturity, right? So if she's green, she must be a teen. That's what happens, right?
All right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, and even, there are other things. Skin turns other colors for other reasons. So now the question becomes, could drinking a potion by the mother? So we know that human skin can turn colors, right? Based on a variety of factors. All right. Now the question becomes, could one of those factors be mama drank a potion? We've seen far worse from mama ingesting stuff, right? Yeah. And the classic case is thalidomide, which was a drug that allegedly was supposed to help pregnant women with morning sickness and such discomforts.
Yeah.
But instead, their babies were born disfigured. Yeah, that's a horrible case in history. But basically, mom ingested a medication, and you have an immediate result on their children. So I don't see any reason why that couldn't happen. Green skin exists.
Mm-hmm.
The barrier, the placental barrier doesn't screen out everything, and who knows? In the modern world of gene editing, we are a animal that clearly is able to change its skin color based on the environment. Right. So, it's even believed that the way skin color changes happened in the evolution of humans. If you look at the first humans, when we went hairless, most animals with hair have very light colored skin. So it's thought that we were, hairy with light skin, then became hairless with dark skin. And when I say we, I'm not even talking Homo sapiens sapiens. I'm talking pre-Homo sapiens sapiens. And then when Homo erectus, over the course of 2 million years, spread around Eurasia and Africa, it's believed that they differentiated skin colors based on the same ways that Homo sapiens did, which is due to needing to protect bare skin from ultraviolet radiation. right? And so that technique is melanin and melanocytes, right? So plants have chloroplasts, which turn them green. So if you think about how eukaryotes came about, how the mitochondria got inside of the cells that became us, plants got the chloroplast.
Okay, wait, hold on.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna pull it back for a second for those of us for whom it's been a minute since bio class happened.
Yes.
Define eukaryote, define mitochondria.
Oh, yeah. So when you look at life, there are the simplest animals that are the simplest life forms that are single cells. They don't have a cellular nucleus. The DNA kind of floats around in there, and they don't have what are called organelles. And so there's two types of them, bacteria and what are known as archaea. All right. And archaea tend to be extremophiles. They live in really hot environments, really acidic environments, really basic environments. And then there's viruses, and so what happens is of those three tiny life elements begin to live inside each other. Right. So a mitochondria was one type of bacteria that it's believed it was consumed by an archaea, but instead of being digested, it continued to live inside. And they had this symbiotic relationship. And so it's like, hey, you give me protection, I give you ATP. And so I give you energy. And so the plants took it one step further. Their cells, they also incorporated mitochondria, but then they also incorporated these bacteria that knew how to photosynthesize and create chlorophyll. And so now, plants have both. So could you gene edit humans in order to give them chloroplasts on their skin or something else, a pigmentation? Because there's something in your skin that gives you the melanin in your skin is what gives you color. So you're going to need either a combination of things, blue and yellow, right? It's a classic example, or something that itself is just green in order to make that occur. And is that doable? It sure the hell sounds doable.
So I'm hearing you're saying green skin via maternal transference in some way, shape, or form could fly.
I love the way you phrase that. I think it flies.
And so does the Wicked Witch of the West. She flies real high.
On a broom. All right. Yeah. I like to know what made them think of that. When they were thinking about aerodynamics. Oh, yes, I'm looking at nature. Insects, birds. Broom. I know how humans would do it. A broom.
I mean, I don't know enough about mythology to know, but I feel like brooms and witches have been together for a very, very long time. If I had to take a guess, and again, this is not a scholarly area of mythology I know about or have a scholarly knowledge of mythology, whatever, but women have been branded as witches for centuries because of many, many reasons, and women's do domestic work. So women broom, there you go.
So when I lived in Boston, I used to go to Salem a lot and check out the witchy stuff, and once I got to Salem, it was just pure madness. They were just making stuff up about people.
Well, they've always kind of been making stuff up about people.
Yes, they have. Yes, they have. So anyway,
it's actually kind of what this movie is about. Or sorry, not this movie, is what this show is about. That definitely factors into it.
The question I have is, was the Wicked Witch of the West in the original Oz green, or is that something that just came out of Wicked?
I don't know about the Frank Baum books because it's been a minute since I've read them. But it's been in there since Wizard of Oz. I mean, Wizard of Oz, she's green, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you think about her backstory and her becoming, it does play a role, right?
Well, not so. The whole thing of the book, and I haven't read Wicked the book, but the whole thing of Wicked the book and Wicked the musical is that you're actually for the first time learning the backstory, because Wizard of Oz is about Dorothy, right? You're seeing the story from Dorothy's point of view. Wicked is you're finally learning the history of the Wicked Witch of the West and learning the story. And there's a great interview with Stephen Schwartz where he talks about the moment that Elphaba, the Wicked Witch, comes out on stage for the first time. Like, you've already seen the opening number where they explain that backstory. You see the story of the affair, but then you get to and the way the whole thing is set up is that Glinda, the Good Witch, who we know from Wizard of Oz, Glinda the Good Witch is telling the story of the Wicked Witch of the West, and you sort of learn this secret history basically. And it starts when they arrive at boarding school together, and there's this moment where the character of Elphaba bursts from the back of the stage and comes out to the front. She's got this great, like, open, excited expression on her face. And they said that in previews, the first time they were doing previews for it, the entire audience just burst into applause. And that told them something as creators, because what it told them was that the audience was excited to learn about this story and embrace this character and see something in a character in a way that they hadn't seen before. So Wicked says this is her backstory, but I don't know if you went back and talked to the creators of Wizard of Oz, if they would agree that this was their backstory for.
Right.
So yeah,
probably not. I mean, that would be unless the creator of Wicked went and spoke with them. How would you?
But it's drawn from the book, so McGuire. Right. I don't know about the change, how many changes happened between the musical and the book that it was drawn from. But yeah, so you've got this story set up where you have this affair that we, the audience, know about, and we know that it was a traveling salesman, kind of before, and we eventually learn who this traveling salesman is. Before. And by the way, we probably should have already said this, but
I knew it.
We will have some spoilers. This is a show that travels, so it's entirely possible that you may never have seen it, and you're going to see a traveling production of it. There will be spoilers.
No, don't give it away. Don't give it away. Well, don't give away the big one. Don't give it away, because so many people.
We actually have to talk about it, but I'm telling you now. But the other thing is that
you can't.
That's the show. Sorry. The other piece of it is that's part of the whole conversation. The other piece of it is that, and I think people know this, the movie part 1 of Wicked, directed by John Chu, is coming out as well. So the movie is going to be in 2 parts. And the irony is that we were telling the story before of how initially this was going to be a film. Stephen Schwartz convinced them at Universal to make it into a movie. Well, now here we are, and the musical is being turned into a movie. So these things go round and round and round. So back to the green skin and the role that it plays. So there's like 2 separate pieces, right? So there's the way that it happens, which factors into plot, the affair, all of that, the fact that, and then there's how the going through life with green skin affects Elphaba. And actually, here's a fun fact that I did not know until I started digging into the research for this episode. The Wicked Witch, up until Wicked, did not have a name.
Oh boy.
And the way that they got the name Elphaba was they were inspired by L. Frank Baum's Elphaba, his initials.
What? Wow.
Well, I know, my head went,
Elphaba.
Elphaba,
wow.
L. Frank Baum.
And Galinda was Galinda?
So Glinda, if you hear it in Wizard of Oz, is Glinda. It's been a minute since I've read the Baum books, so I'm not sure what she is in there. However, in Wicked, as you might remember, it's actually a plot point that she starts as Galinda and then changes to Glinda. So that's a piece of the story there as she's trying to appear more responsible and socially conscious. She makes the Glinda change.
What's
and that's
her
how
name?
That's how we get
a
our
rose
Glinda.
by any other name would smell just as sweet.
And
but the humans would react differently. There is something in the name.
There's and for Glinda, there's something in the name. Like, she gets really pissed off early on in the show. When there's a teacher who can't quite pronounce her name. And so later on, you might remember there's a point where that teacher is being persecuted. And so to basically like show her solidarity, she's like, I will be named Glinda in solitude because that's how he pronounced my name. And she's actually quite upset. She doesn't really want to be known as Glinda, but then it happens. And at the very end, she very emphatically claims the name Glinda the Good. So her name is a thing. Yeah.
Wow. Nice trivia there. There's so much I did not know.
You're playing in my wheelhouse right now.
I know. Normally I go like crazy in the science world, and now you're just like, dude, I've been waiting for
Well,
this
you're
one.
like
It's my thing.
in the Venn diagram of like nerdery, right? You've got like all my geeky stuff and my
Yeah.
musical theater geekness. So we're in the sweet spot.
Right. Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah. So, all right. So back to green skin. So, when we're talking about the role that it plays in the storytelling, the fact that Elphaba has gone through life with this green skin, the fact that her dad, so there was Elphaba, and then she had a younger sister named Nessa Rose, and her mom died in childbirth, and her father has always
Stepdad.
well, yes, sorry, her, but again, she didn't
Real dad.
real her
Non-biological dad that raised her.
yeah, non-biological dad that raised her, has always resented her. He favors Nessa Rose, and he either is cruel to Elphaba, or he basically ignores her and just kind of pretends she's not there, which is not a great way to grow up. She's developed as a result. She's developed, quite a shell to like ward off people saying nasty things about her. She'll usually confront the green thing head on. Like when she first gets to Shiz, the school, she's like, yeah, I'm green, deal with it.
Yeah. Well,
and
Kermit told us.
It's not easy being green.
That's right.
It is not easy being green. And so, it's even said that possibly that her stepdad, who she grew up with, blamed her for his wife's death because when his wife was pregnant the second time, he was so nervous about having a green child again that he made her mom drink an elixir. And that is apparently why Nessa Rose was born early. She was born a paraplegic. She's in a wheelchair. And then the mom died. So like there's a lot of blame going around with the dad. So that's the not great home situation. And that is part of the plot piece of all of this. But then, we sort of get into the character piece of it, which is the story of a girl and a woman who goes through life looking different, feeling different, being made fun of, and her journey as she really has to navigate who she is and what she wants. And is she going to try to fit in, or is she going to live life on her own terms? And, I think for me, this is one of the reasons that this musical resonates so much with so many people and is so popular, because it's grounded in something that most of the women and some of the guys, but especially the women I know have gone through in their lives, which is as teens, as girls.
Oh,
like,
yeah. The mean girls, the outcasting, or the...
Yeah. So much mean girling, so much, being based on what you look like. And this question of like, do you alter yourself so that you can fit in, so that you can be accepted, so that you can be, as Galinda would say, popular? And
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I'm saying it's a natural feeling if you feel outcast from the group to be, to turn on the group, to feel like, oh, you think I'm that? I'll show you who's that, right?
Well, and the green skin really heightens it because it's not something that she can hide, right? Like if you don't fit in because you're like not a big partier, or you like to read, or whatever the things that were considered stereotypically not cool,
right.
you can change, you can pretend like to do other things, or you can't change your skin color.
No. Well, you can. There's Michael Jackson.
Yeah. She couldn't.
Got a light-skinned friend look like Michael Jackson. Got a dark-skinned friend look like Michael Jackson. I couldn't resist.
So you've got, a theme that really reverberates across.
Right. It definitely
nature.
does.
And then the other piece of it is, this whole idea of this theme of female friendship, right? Because you've got Galinda, who is blonde and bubbly and popular and knows all the right things and to say and do. And then you've got Elphaba, who's never quite fit in anywhere, never felt accepted for herself. And when the movie starts, when the musical starts, and she thinks about going to see the wizard, part of the reason, one of the big reasons she wants to see the wizard is to, as she puts it, degreenify her.
Ooh.
So she wants to not be who she
She wants to be
is.
just like everyone else.
She wants to be just like everyone else. She wants to fit in. And then we see the French and Elphaba and Glinda hate each other at the beginning when they first meet. But Elphaba does something nice for Glinda. It's very clear from the beginning that Elphaba has some pretty incredible powers.
You're making Elphaba a very sympathetic character.
Well, that's what the
And-
story does. To like kind of wrap it all up. I mean, if you're asking me, does the green skin fly in the show? Does both the origin story of it and the skin and the way that it contributes to how it tells the story? Yeah, absolutely. Like you wouldn't have Wicked without it.
Well, that's flying if I ever heard of flying.
Yeah, like it's a foundation. It's a foundational piece of it.
Yeah.
Now, the backstory of how it all happens,
Right.
you know, that's the creative fairy dust that has come from this book and that goes into this musical. But
Yeah.
like that, it's a foundational component of the story overall. So
All right. So now let's go to the vibes.
Yeah.
What do you think about the ability? What if you could drink an elixir and tomorrow, just like you could decide your outfit, and sometimes people with eyes of a particular color choose their outfit to match their eyes and their eyes pop? What if you could do that with your skin? Would that be a world? Would that be?
yeah, I love that idea.
Yeah.
I love the idea that you could like walk around in a different hue or a different. I mean, people do that with their eyes right now with color contacts. So like if you could drink an elixir and like temporarily walk around differently. I mean, I guess, you know, we've seen it in some pop culture stuff where, you know, people sort of, and certainly some sci-fi stuff where people take on different appearances. Often it's for nefarious purposes, but like, I mean, if there were a way to do it that it was clearly like for like a fun and style thing as opposed to a way that got like people cranky.
Well, I mean, that's our appearance is a big thing, right? You set your whole vibe up. If I, you know, tatted myself up, got a few piercings, grew my hair long and dressed edgy, completely different dude, right? It could be something that breaks down barriers for humans, but it also could be something that's like gang warfare type of a thing, right? So like on the West Coast, you have, so in the Deep South, we were influenced by the gangs of Chicago, which their dichotomy was left versus right. So if you wore your hat to the left, that could get you in trouble, right? On the West Coast, it was colors, red versus blue, right? So I imagine that people would utilize that function for that purpose as well.
Yeah, I mean, people are always gonna like find ways to adapt things.
Sports
but, you know,
fans.
the other thing that that what you said made me think of was actually just the way we currently use avatars, right?
Yeah.
Like whether it's something super simple, like your avatar on like your, you know, your Instagram or TikTok or whatever, versus like when you're actually playing a game, how you choose to like kit yourself out. You know, people very often will choose, I mean, well, also part of the fun is like choosing something that looks nothing like you and choosing not even half the time, not even human. So like there is clearly a joy in being able to do that. The idea of being, of actually being able to do that to your physical body. Yeah, I think that could be super fun.
And can you imagine teens, you know, when you're in that defining oneself, experimenting with different looks, phase, you know, they would be incredibly creative. Yeah, and I know that everybody in Boston, if you went to a Boston Celtics game, they're drinking the green elixir. They're not messing around. So I don't know if you remember their point guard, Marcus Smart, for several years. He would dye his hair green. He had, look it up, production team. Marcus Smart with his green hair. He's no longer a Celtic, so he no longer has green hair, but he was all in. So if you could do that, drinking the elixir, my hair today will be blue. My face skin will be red and my body skin will be purple, right?
How long would you want the effects to last?
You could, you know, I wonder if you could adjust it. So for example, if you're going out that night, what you would do, okay, I got to go to work today. I'm going to be a particular thing. And so whatever your job is going to dictate that, right? So if you can imagine you're a high school teacher, sometimes you'd want to, right? And then sometimes, right, you come home, you have that part of your day. Now I'm going to go out, hang out with my other, edgy pals, put on that particular outfit for the day. So you can set it for whatever you're doing. Or, I'm going on vacation. While I am in Spain, I'm going to be, whatever you choose.
Well, yeah, my brain, I heard you say vacation, and like my brain actually just went to like tanning beds, right? Like, I mean,
get rid of that.
Won't need that anymore. Just drink your drink, and you're as tan as you want to be without all that like burning of skin stuff. So that's a good thing.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing. And all those people that are putting on those lightening creams, I'm not going to call out any geographical regions, but they won't have to do that anymore.
All right. Well, just to put the definitive pin in it, as far as the idea of extrapolating the idea of elixirs that would be novelty items that would let you change your appearance quickly, easily for fun. Yeah, flies.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. But don't do bad stuff with it. This ain't AI.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Great good or great bad. If it has potential for great good, it may have potential for great bad. We got to control that bad, let it not happen. So
for sure.
We love ourselves. Thank you all for joining us. We release our episodes every Friday, and you can find us all over the place.
That's right. You can find us at Does It Fly Pod on TikTok. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us at doesitflypod.com. And I have to give a big shout out to our producers. They always do an amazing job of some of the sciencey stuff that Hakeem talks about, some of the behind the scenes stuff that I talk about. You can find links to if you want to take a deeper dive in. So go check us out there. Let us know what you think about Wicked, about the story, about the science, and anything we might have missed or that we should know about. And of course, if you have a suggestion for an episode, something you'd like us to cover, let us know that too.
Yes, and if you consume us audio only, check us out on our social media channels because we have great graphics. Our production team throws these nice, the words we say, they turn into imagery, and that's even cooler.
Absolutely. All right, well, we will see you next time.